Well, good afternoon as we're sitting here at LTV, continuing with the tradition of public access on a Monday afternoon, September 17th, year 2023, here with the Hello Hello Show. As I said, continuing with the tradition of public access in the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been on the air since 1980. Of course, not to fail to mention the contribution by Fraser Dougherty, Francis Ann, and of course the likes of you out there to make it your business to enhance and fortify the concept of public access, rightfully so. Here with us, Carl Dahl. Thank you for coming, Carl. And as I want to mention a few words, maybe I shouldn't, but Carl, a dear person that I met in the last couple of weeks in one of the art shows as his mother is engaged in our group show, existing group show, Renee Dahl. So we had a good conversation. We actually literally extending that conversation into the zone of that closed circle of cameras. And without a doubt, that will take place. Carl, so nice to have you. I guess, you know, when I was thinking how I'm going to open, if at all I'm going to open, if at all I can plan anything, is that about the nature of the code of conduct that we have to engage with non-stop. And that is actually has a more meaningful relationship with the meaning of life, the meaning of our passage that we can ever imagine. But I'll leave that for the later on. So, Carl, a few words about Carl.
I live in Sag Harbor. I've been through many adventures in life that led me towards finding my purpose in writing. But, you know, writing is just one creative avenue and then leads to all the others, and just trying to play this game of life with everyone else and make something, possibly leave it better than I found it.
Yeah, wow, that's a good way of putting it. But I assume being the son of Renee Dahl, her level of intensity is not the usual your mom type of. She found herself in the depth of situations that were extremely demanding, I would say. I'm sure that rubbed against you and taught you an extra angle or two on how to look at things and how to go about.
Oh, she's always been so clever, you know, for being a single mom and an artist, and everything she's already achieved and gone through is very inspiring, and yeah, it does definitely instill.
Like what kind of a face your exposure to art took in the early stages?
I think, you know, at first she was the kind of mom that would come into school and guest teach, you know, how the kids how to do paper mache and be like, "Oh, I'm Carl's mom. I brought all the equipment and everything," and you know, it was really cool. A little embarrassing, but you know, that's a natural reflex when you're that young to be embarrassed by something. When I look back now, I'm so proud of it and excited by it. But there's like always Ronald Stein. Remember Ronald, who was Jackson Pollock and Lee Krasner's I think it was Lee Krasner's last surviving relative, but I was just always around. He was just someone I took for granted in my life. So many amazing artists that are gone now that I always knew, but I didn't really know their work until now. I mean, that's kind of like the beautiful curse of living out here, you know.
Yeah. It's funny, every time I find myself giving advice, usually indirectly, it's mainly because people kind of want to know about certain things. Because I'm fed up and I don't want to say, I don't want to tell you, I'm not in the mood. Because, what do you want from me exactly? Things like that, whatever. So in order to overcome that, I have to, I always end up being aggressive unnecessarily at the end of let's say if I give 10 minutes of my time to tell you, okay, here I am, that's what it is, this and that. The last 2 minutes is always like aggressive because I cannot tell you, you know, I don't want to talk to you or something like that.
Yeah.
So when I do that, people obviously are, they can't help themselves but show you how they feel. Body gestures, this and that. And then if you call them on that and say, it seems like what I said hurt your feelings. And they said, no. I said, but I can see that it hurt your feelings. And so, no. And then the more I kind of say, but yes, their level of aggression rises.
Yeah.
So then it's interesting. So then the question is, what do we do with it if we decide to adapt to the moment? What do we do with this?
I mean, I think that's the beauty of your technique that you don't see, because you do challenge them to actually bring themselves out instead of just doing the nicety dance, and everyone shows their verbal rotation, so to say. That that you're actually just being like, well, I'm going to give you some time now. Now I want to test you a little bit and see where you are, if you actually retain the information I told you, and then
self growth. I meant
for
more than anything. Like I'm telling them about mine, offering them theirs.
And then that I noticed that other time you had a wonderful story to sum up the whole experience. The point that, I mean, this was coming in yesterday. I was a little late. I didn't see the first part of the interaction, but you definitely brought her to see who she really was, and then you provided this beautiful anecdote about being a father at the same time. So it's just the same way as the wise man would tell the story with the lesson, so that they subconsciously learn how to learn the lesson without you stealing that experience from them. Almost, you have to got to lead a horse to water.
Yeah. The thing is that there are many tricky situations. But most of them, as far as you and I consider, I assume about you also, is that we prefer to choose our battles, and we prefer more to have the battles in the creative zone. That means while I'm painting or playing music or writing a poem, I don't mind the battles there. I don't mind the obstacles there. I don't mind the challenges there.
It's a joy.
I mind more. Just because I'm having a conversation with you, something happens, then I said, I don't want to be here right now. I don't want to do this right now. But in our society, you just have to find the line where you have to decide how much abuse can you take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then go on with your life. Every time go on with your life. Not go on with your life and then 6 months later pick up. No, go on with your life 3 minutes later. You're getting into a scenario that you have to go on with your life.
Yeah,
at some point of that
here,
stage,
especially in the summer with the heat that we're in, it's tough to find that middle ground, where you want, I guess you have to seek to understand rather than be understood, that whole forgive through understanding and love, lesson of life. And, I mean, I can't, I say that, but it's tough not to, sometimes when someone's being all crazy in traffic and, driving through the red light, and about to ruin everyone's day out of just this manic exasperation, I kind of just look over and I'll just be like, my summer, and I just say it right there, and then it makes them think about themselves, and it also gives me a way out. And
that's a good point.
I remind myself at that point the wise words of Walter Struble: not everyone has to like you. And
yes,
that's kind of a refreshing thing. But when you are trying to be more in the public, you have to put a life jacket on that concept, just a little bit, just enough.
So in our attempt to utilize whatever it is that's taking place during the day, which I talk about that all the time in all the years that I'm here, I'm always channeling things through art, the experience of art, the creative moment, the all of that kind of demeanor or atmosphere. So as we go about our day, but knowing that in the back of our mind we got to come up with some goods, when all this walking, turning, driving, interacting will subside, and you find yourself in a moment and say, okay, thank you, God, you gave me what I love the most, you gave me my time now. And then you're there, and then it's like a bird that feeds its youngs. She would swallow pieces of food, and when she comes, she's just like literally, how do you say it? Regurgitate, and it's like it's such a challenging moment for you. You can say this potential disgust is so beautiful. Yeah, So you come to your student, you have to be able to start emptying your pocket and say, wow, and all this. The very first thing I told them is that since the first show, I realized that my best bet is to be a great listener and implement everything I listen to people saying without any shame, and prove to them that I'm listening.
Yeah.
If they don't want me to implement what they're saying, they shouldn't say much, or they shouldn't say it all.
That's true. I mean, that's part of the back and forth in building the conversation, instead of, what was that line from Fight Club where Tyler is talking with Marla Singer, and they discuss the idea that, people aren't listening so much as they're waiting for their turn to talk. And,
That's a brilliant statement.
I mean, Palahniuk had so many great lines.
That's a
in
freaking
his book.
brilliant sentence.
But you could see it in people too sometimes. I notice it when they're waiting to talk, they kind of like, you get the pause, like the pressure drops, and then they put their head up, and you're just like, oh, do you have something loaded into the thing? Let's hear it, because you're participating in it. And then eventually they start to see it, and then they're like, okay, so like I'll play in the conversation,
So what is it that you personally have to give, but not that you have to give? How much is it that you're giving? How much is it a part of your level of commitment of actually first achieving it, to have it, to begin with, to be able to give it if you wanted to?
Yeah.
So what is it about you that is being given, and how does it take place? Because this is, I think, is the most important thing.
I mean, I think everyone is
Cliche though, but
yeah,
important.
a little cliche, but I mean, not too cliche, because there's a good standard in there. I think everyone has to be able to give their best form of themselves forward to to the participation in society. Whether or not we have that much of ourselves to give at the moment. There are there's so many times where I am completely introverted, and the thought of going outside is crippling, and you still have to find a way to participate in the world without worrying that you're going to lose what you were working on. That's always the there's so many writers that they say if you think about something and you try to remember it and you panic that it's going to be gone forever, you just have to like relax and trust that something else will inspire the thought to come back to you. As terrifying as that is, it's still, every time that happens, it's still a leap of faith.
Yeah.
And
in the shape of an abrupt memory reflex or something.
Definitely. If I were to go searching for those, I always go right before I fall asleep. I find my brain has a very easy time detangling the day and the cables and all the wires, and everything starts to come out. So like just as I'm about to fall asleep, as that happens, I'll get up real quick and just write down everything, and then fall right back asleep, and then I wake up and I read it, and it makes no sense to me anyway. It might as well be a David Lynch
Yeah,
movie.
if I ever found myself not getting up because I have that moment that you experienced, I always say, well, if it's going to be there in the morning, that means I'm going to have to write it. And then I always end up remembering fragments of that. And fragments of that are obviously not even close to what it was all about.
It's true.
But
yeah.
it's very close to something even bigger.
Mm-hmm.
That you realize that's like unbelievable. You want to be able to introduce a willingness to introduce humility. I won't say introduce humility because I don't even understand what it is. You can find yourself that you're there, and on your way to announce it is gone, and then you're there in front of the audience. You were just about to say something incredible, and now not only that you are not saying it, you can't even remember what it was.
You can, if you try.
So this fiction, I think we can achieve a power over this fiction by accumulating knowledge that happens to be our own private knowledge that we, for the most part, almost only we can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But not because we're trying to write in a language that no one's going to, a code or something. It's because it's really ours,
Mm-hmm.
So you have to, even if you're extremely intelligent and smart, you would have to get a crash course on how to bypass a lot of things in order to be deserved to listen to the story.
Mm-hmm.
Like she said yesterday, what about this process of, so how did you manage to prevent from the paint to this and make it dry over evening? Did you see that?
I think I might have missed that point.
Yeah.
But I definitely understand that question.
And she said, so she said, how? So tell us. So I couldn't tell her, and then she's pushing me to tell her why I cannot tell her.
I mean, that's
So she pushed me, and then I said, well, because maybe you're not entitled.
You have to earn the spark.
Yes, but I didn't want to say earn, and I didn't say earn, by the
No,
way.
yeah, but
I said something that will resemble that, but
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
like, okay, um, like having something to show for, kind of thing. That it will be actually not a general thing. It'll be a great achievement, but if it's in general, it's got to be very specific, like something that will say, snip snap, like wow, and go back to reality. It's doable, and so in that process, you want to uh, also, almost like when you play guitar and then you wrap you wrap a ring over if you want to play in a certain key. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah, no, yeah,
Whatever you call it.
because you're not going to go any higher.
Yeah,
so
or
then
something,
so, yeah, you
So
throw it
I
over
don't know
the
much
top.
about that. I mean, I know the essence of it, but so imagine that, so that you can actually, tie something and this bleeding won't kill you. You know what I mean? Just let it kind of stay where it is. Even when that you're risking a lot, by the way, if you were to do that, because let's say, whatever, so we don't get. So the point is, so you haven't earned it. So and then I gave that example of the boyfriend of my, whatever, someone's boyfriend's of someone's daughter, whatever that this guy to the father is telling him things, and the father said, "Wait a second, what are you? Who are you? Where did you come from? How did you end up here? How did you end up with my daughter? What do you know about her? What is it that you're talking about that can be backed up by any kind of be earning her love of this person? Right? Like, who are you? What are you? For God's sake!" Okay, with passion, not with anger. Maybe a little bit of anger. So she picked up anger because I said entitlement. I didn't say because you're not entitled. I say you got to be entitled, whatever.
Yeah. This is a tricky community to use entitled with, that's sometimes they take it personally. I think that was, but I think she began to understand the point you were trying to make, but
But she withdrew. So she became distant, and that wasn't so good. It wasn't fair.
Yeah, she was a little offended, and she separated herself from it, and which is a natural reflex at times. But the song, the show goes on, and we all continued, and she read some great poetry afterwards.
Yes, they all read good poetry.
Everyone's poetry was so good. I felt like I wasn't pre-installed with the beret that comes with that. I was like, my stuff is rhyming too much, and I was like, this is poetry, but I was also trying to create a mythology that would be told by a kid to give examples of the mechanics I've created.
You want to hear something really interesting? You could have done well exactly as he did without any sound.
Interesting.
Yeah, I looked at you and I said, okay, he's just the way he holds those post-it notes and stuff, whatever it is.
Oh, it was very
And then you had the phone.
My phone was
so
fighting
you have,
me. It was turning away from me every time.
You had the post-it, which is like 70 years old, and you had the iPhone. Okay, so you're talking here, the forces are talking, and it looked like you're making a point. It looks like you're doing okay making the point, and borrowing from whatever. The balance between right and left and hands and all, it was perfect. It told the story. I sat in the very back, you noticed, and it works very well for you because I was being more able to see how your body is the interpretation of your body as far as the verbal aspect of it is concerned.
They probably matched entirely. I was trying to hold all that together. I went because the poetry was an interesting challenge for the time, but it was something that had naturally accrued over the course of writing. Sometimes you have whatever pet peeves you have in your head while writing that obviously become your own obstacles or not, and over time, I just, eventually the act of writing without rhyming kind of leaves that energy, and sometimes when you need it, you can just go boom, 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 and it all comes out naturally because that remainder is there to help you. And I really enjoyed it a lot more, and I was able to read my stuff without giving away too many clues.
Yeah.
And, it was, the fascination with figs is actually... It's oddly terrifying that nobody really talks about. You know, the nature of figs. I mean, the commercial figs that we eat have no involvement with fig wasps, and but just I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
not. It was in. I only went for that because I was trying to figure out an origin for spiders, and they had a similar build to most wasps, and the spider egg shape was similar to a fig. So I was kind of playing with that. And then once I had read that in the Vedas they believe that Yggdrasil is a fig tree, or the universe tree is a fig tree, I was sold on it, and that was enough for me to get in there and start making a poem about the creation of spiders.
Yeah.
Which is also bold because people are terrified of them. I'm naturally terrified of spiders. I think that's why I was enjoying writing and making them personable in a way that,
Yeah.
At first everything's misunderstanding, and then you're like, wow, they're not so bad. But that's just life, sometimes you start off meeting someone on completely the other side of the playing field, and then they become your best friend, even though you had a terrible first encounter.
Yeah.
But those become closer friends because your bond is stronger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most of the time, supposedly. Yeah.
But also, like, let's say a friendship between two people like you and myself should be able to result quickly a highlighted grid that is like like a backbone, increasing the probability of the
Effective collisions.
no, I have the word. I have the word. Oh my God!
Oh
my God!
I have a few science words we can apply.
I don't want to say artistic, but more like a whimsical connotation that quickly enough shows you that it's actually it's an invented language that it takes you probably 5 seconds to learn, to understand. It's like everything, deciphering, learning, theory, everything in 5 seconds. Suddenly you understand. You're dumbfounded, and for quite a while you don't even know why and what is it related to, but you know that you're enjoying it. And it's like you're seeing a painting that you know almost nothing about, but you're so taken by it, and you're adamant about it, and you just trying to absorb it all the way, so you trying to empty your system as much as you can, so it will have enough space. This is like you have a few minutes, that kind of thing. And how is it going to? So grabbing, as if you're running for your life, all that's becoming available suddenly, abruptly. And from there, because you know that at some point you're going to be in your lab or your studio of any kind of musical instrument, you know that you're going to be there. So that means the most major thing people like you and I don't have to worry about is that how are we going to remind ourselves that we need to do it? We are fully complete with it this moment. But you and I know that maybe in an hour from now we won't remember everything that we are completely engulfed with right now.
Absolutely.
But for us, it's guaranteed. Why? We will end up at some point inside our shrine, where we do our express our medium. So if that is guaranteed to you, then you don't have to be busy with anything other than remembering constantly, so you don't have to forget in order to need to remind yourself.
That's true.
Because then if you need to remind yourself, you know for sure that you can only remind of half of what took place.
It's true.
So what is left out, or not, forget about it, becomes complicated by the millisecond.
It's true, yeah.
So if you know that you are inevitably, at least once a day, you will find yourself there.
It's really, definitely, I fear that all the time, and I guess really just the diligence in personal note taking, in taking those few moments to just write the Post-it note like I was doing, or make the voice memo on your phone just so you have the journal. But also, Google Notes is a dangerous place. Things do go there to die often. I try not to let it happen, but there are so many things that I leave in Google Notes. I was like, oh man, I'll come back to this in another lifetime or something. It's one of those before you fall asleep, detangle ideas, and they're beautiful, but do you have enough momentum to grab it back, or has life given you another incident for you to really accept the necessity for this invention, this creation, hoping that it's going to inspire the next tier, So maybe you hang on to those moments and decide how to create something to better, or at least adjust it, in some way, and just really hang on to that idea. But then anything could happen while you're there. Once you have, Tesla called it the bird of genius. I think, remember, he had married a bird at one point. He called it his wife, but he says that genius kind of just lands on your shoulder for a little while, and you got to make do as much as you can before it flies away. And or you kind of choose how to maintain that mental state and choose to leave yourself at the door, almost like you're an actor in your own studio, just so that you can continue on without that genius. But you still need all of the parts of the equation to have a creative in a creative ecosystem, really, within your mind space, so that you can get there. And anything can distract. And then also I find that every time I do channel that energy, life can just feel it and will just send distractions, So that's the next test, is like, how do I process distraction and transform?
And then, but slowly but surely, we realize we don't need that many of them anyway.
And then we get right back to triage and
so
tourniquet,
that's,
where you're like, you know what, I don't need that leg. I can finish this without it. At the moment,
It's like, I remember that in order to cover for my lack of college education, when it comes to art and all this, of course, I know what I know, but I thought that 25 years ago, I thought that was something important, and because I had no evolutionary process or no aspirations that led me to become a painter, it all happened suddenly. So suddenly I'm an artist, and I feel like I feel today, like I felt the first day, convinced I want to do this, but then I felt like, so I said, since I don't think I'm going to go to college right now, how am I going to, what am I going to introduce in order to get rid of it fast, of this, so I can free myself to create? And so what I did is something very simple. I've been a house painter for about 45 years, 40 out of which in East Hampton. So nothing, never, no job ever intimidated me, meaning that I would go and say, I painted Silver Cup Studios. If you know 59th Street Bridge, you go see that Silver Cup Studios. I painted it in 1987. We used to work with roller skates, because they had it was huge.
Really? What color did you paint it?
Well, no, it was a more complex process. It wasn't
like
pigments. It was more like, it was brick walls inside. It was major. And then we did also the basement, which was the offices and all this. But it was major. It was brutal. It was rewarding. It was disgusting. It was the heat of Queens in 1987, where we, and suddenly you feel like you're a city boy and you're like burning in hell every day, but you're exuberant and you deliver the job and people are happy, and then you say, well, I'm staying in Manhattan, I'm going to go and check out concerts and all this. You don't sleep, you don't eat, you work, you check out all these legendary musicians and all the clubs, a million things. Okay, why am I saying that?
No, it's beautiful to jump into the electricity that is Manhattan.
Yes.
Like everyone should have that experience.
And I came from 3 years in Paris before I came here, so I was driving a truck there. So, I mean, I had a lot of the elements of city boy. But what I meant to say is that nothing ever intimidated me. So it doesn't matter what stage I was, that my company, Quality Painting in East Hampton, I was always definitely willing to do work. So I said, that's exactly what I'm going to import and introduce my new journey as an artist. So I'm going to take that attitude and I'm going to work on how I'm going to implement it. Not on whether I'm going to or not, on how. I need to really work it out. So when I need it, let's say if I go and paint a house 15,000 square foot, I don't like take a deep breath and say, okay, let's see what we're going to do. I'm like, not at all. I'm in a different world. So I worked on it. So I go to the studio and I realized that whatever idea I had,
Mm-hmm.
I reacted so instantly and immediately. I mean, as I was contemplating, I was actually preparing what I need to create at least a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, maybe even 50, depends the sizes. So I ended up one day starting a journey where in 1 month I had about 506 square inches of plywood that are absolutely impeccably done. I don't even know even in an artistic way. Just I decided to do something, and this was like a project for me. I'm doing it. I got a down payment. I'll finish it. I'll get paid. And so now I go to a show and I realize, okay, I'm going to show that. And still, I think I'm a nobody. I think I stink. I suck. I think I'm ignorant. I think everyone is looking at me and saying, who the friggin' heck is this guy? He doesn't belong here. That's how I felt inside.
It happens, yeah.
No, but I felt it every day. It was really major. Make it or break it.
No, yeah, and at that point, I mean, that's still like a
So,
natural reflex.
just to finish my thoughts, so the next show that I did that, so now I introduced the word, the result of that. Silence in the room. Why? Because people are surprised. Forget about art, you're the greatest, none of that. People did not expect that.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're not in a rush to open their mouths because they don't want to make a fool of themselves. The ones before, they could have afforded to do that because they saw and they said, what's going on? Get out of my way. Now, they take their time in order to digest and in order to see what questions will be considered as the right questions. Huh?
Yeah.
So I noticed that because I said I will listen to everyone. I will observe everyone. I will learn from everyone. I'll implement it. No exceptions. So what I realized is that people paid attention mainly on how much art is there. Most of them came and said, you know that you left us no room and no time to examine your art because we are so busy trying to figure out what's going on here. So I learned that quickly. So the second time, third time, fourth time, then here in 1998, Studio 3 of LTV, I did a show that I called The Two Worlds. And I did a show that when people came in, forget art, forget genius, forget talent, forget anything. This is what I'm learning. People came in and they were silent. I'm talking about silent. They said, whoa, and they were silent because I was a tradesperson. I really sanded the wood and gave it a wonderful shine, satin finish. The grid is there. This kind of perfection, you don't expect people to say, but the polyurethane is not. No, people are quiet. They ask you immediately, how much do I owe you? Something like that, So just imagine, 25 years later, every year, a couple of times, I still listen to everyone. And I go to my studio and I say, thank you. I have a whole list of things to work on. So I reduced the tension of how serious I think this issue is, that due to it I feel so badly. And I realized that it's actually not as bad and as intense as I think it is. So I toned it down. And as soon as I toned it down, it's like a dam. You open. It's coming, man. And so until I realized that I can actually stop the flow if I want, close that door. And so I felt I can live with that. I don't have to be completely secured. I'm where I can feel like I can be bruised now and then, but I can make it from point A to point B.
It's a nice middle path.
I'm sure you can relate to that because the way that you can actually handle the parts of that whole that it belongs to you in a very interesting way that makes every part as a whole in itself. Remember you said that before that the wholeness of the one doesn't have to cut itself in order to give two entities interpret their own and then united them, but create that kind of a change that speaks for agility and flexibility that they can work within the entire unit.
Yeah, definitely like a productive social compassion that'll really help you just succeed in everything. But also, again, that comes back to humility and really the gift of taking a beat, like what you were saying before is that's what all those great actors that like Christopher Walken or Captain Kirk, it's escaping my, they always know how to take that moment and just speak in just 4 words and then the beat so that everyone really listens to them, which is really just bringing control and peace back to the situation and, establishing it kind of opens their minds up to absorb the point that you're trying to make, so the humility comes with the beat and then the information, and then you have maximum data transference between, your mind and your set of energy with theirs, and you're establishing a faster common denominator, and then all they have to do is see your example of action and the polishing of the work and everything. That's it. That's why.
So, but how do you keep your real self out of the conflict? Meaning that you want to have a portion of yourself remain intact and kind of somewhat clean and filtered and pured. So when you kind of reunite with yourself at the moments that you're allowed to do what you really love the most, that you will have some. You don't have to depressurize,
Yeah, I think you have to accept that it's a beautiful fantasy to keep yourself from it, but I think you are part of it no matter what, and you're really the only choice we have truly is how we react to things. So if you learn how to go with the flow and stay in the middle the same way you have since then, you can just stay on it without taxing yourself too much spiritually or physically or intellectually. With you don't really have to. You can just roll with it, and less energy output in directions that you don't want it to go, and then you still have your heart for your creations.
Yeah.
And what you need to get back to, and then again, all those experiences still give you more colors on your palette, when you're working later, like what do I need to make? What should be made? What do I see is required? How can I help push the baton further in the collective the creative collective unconscious, to go a little Carl Jung there. So it definitely builds an which I guess we call culture almost, pretty close to it, still contributing to it at that point.
Also, what comes into the equation of that equation will be, regarding our achievements, because the worst thing that we can do is take it for granted, even though there's room to take it for granted, and there's nothing wrong. It's just that, just because you can or cannot do certain things, doesn't mean you have to do them or don't have to do them, It should come from the source that is outside of the subject under discussion, meaning, so if you want to use it as a tool, you got to leave the tool out of the argument or discussion of language and contemplation of philosophy and psychology and whatnot. Obviously it cannot relate to it. So,
yeah.
But then you want to be able to protect your achievements, as if someone or something is trying to take it away from you all the time. But it doesn't mean that. It doesn't sound good, doesn't it? Because it's like, feels like, so we're going to be like this?
In the ocean, the water wants to take your heat.
Yeah.
It's just part of the transference of energy, and you're still putting energy into your work and then still getting dissipated into the sea of minds.
And I think it's more like a form of speech, okay? So sometimes when you reply to people, but it was a form of speech, they feel like they're making you feel like you're just making it worse by saying that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So now you got yourself into a deeper problem, and you didn't intend to get yourself in problem to begin with.
Yeah.
So now you want to express and say, but listen, you're mistaken. This is not happening. What you think is happening is actually not happening. And then you get the matter. And then you say, listen, I understand that you get matter, but I need to tell you that again, because that's the only way we can put an end to it and go back to a point where we're really successful in pretending, both of us, that it never happened. So you, so, so you, so I don't know. That's what I call being bruised.
Yeah. No, it's,
So you switch to that mode and back to this mode and back to that mode, and you're hoping that one of them will be the same mode as the encounters. You know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, oh, well, good to see you. Coffee, and then you go for coffee, some biscotti, and have a nice conversation about yesterday's Wimbledon match, and yeah, well, see you around. So that scenario exists also, and probably this scenario is more powerful than all the discoveries that you can have by an appointment ahead of time
it's true.
with the master himself.
Yeah.
Guaranteed that his attention is 100% yours. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
But you want to say, yeah, I love you, but I need to love me too, so I can love you and continue to love you. In order to be able to love me back, in order to have that love that I can and that I want to give you, and the beauty is that you can say it in so many ways.
So many ways.
And I was the type that I was running into the piazza and declaring, I just discovered. You won't believe, people, what I discovered. And you won't believe how much I want to share it with you. Come, pour out of your homes and come listen. It will cost you nothing. And you believe in the heart of hearts that you have something to give them that is going to save them so much hassle in their lives. Gives them so many legitimate shortcuts that you didn't have the privilege to have.
Yeah.
And no mentors, no guideline, nothing.
No, it feels like you're bestowing the gift of a new form of the gift of fire to
Yes.
them. You're like, this is just
And you have what
something,
it takes. You have the goods.
And please do all the greatness you can with this. I'm excited, and your energy has to keep that fire going. And it's so. The tragedy is if you don't feel like you were able to express it to enough people, and then it gets lost, and you're like, no, I created this beautiful idea, and it's going to dissipate and turn to nothing, and it's a horrifying thing. But I guess it's more of your own. Sometimes it could be your own oscillation that smothers that fire, and it's still the choice we have, even with ourselves in creation, and how we can maintain our humility against ourselves, I suppose, would be another way to do it. You can't put too much into too many things. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, so to say.
Yeah, and
because you do find there's always some sort of like a mental block you'll run into, but then that's the beauty of having all these other art forms and how their skills are so interchangeable, that you can use that to get around, if some thought isn't coming out, in terms of poetry or writing, you do the painting, and sometimes, the painting and, leads to, you just don't know where you want to go with it, or, you aren't confident enough in your decision to leave it, which I actually really enjoy in your work, when you leave more of the color and you're like, no, that's all it needed to be. It doesn't have to be completely, enough energy has been added to it, and I'm just trying to extract that one thought for the moment. Or maybe, sometimes I feel with painting, like when you're creating art, like, do I want this to sell? Do I want this for me? Like my mom's work, most of her paintings, she'll never sell.
Yeah.
Never, ever. And if she's asked to, she'll put in an astronomical price just to defend it. But also some of her best pieces, are so, I miss
still
that they're
not
so-
yet existing.
Yeah, there's still.
Oh, yeah.
She definitely, she has so
Your
much
mom
potential.
remembers me from my days of mediocrity. She remembers me very well. Yeah, it's not bad. It's just a measurement.
Yeah, definitely.
I was very under anyone's expectations. I was very mediocre for a while, and I was growing, and then I find myself again kind of falling back and all this. But like I said yesterday, I mentioned it. Generosity of people made it also very easy. It didn't have to happen so frequently and so often. But whenever it happened, it was meaningful. I had Alan Plants, was a legend here in this town of ours, was my mentor, direct mentor of 7 years. What didn't we do together? He used to read also, I used to hire him to read for every art show of mine. He used to visit me in my studio once a week, and we used to do, I used to pay for his time, and the whole thing. Steve Settering, in 1984.
I do remember Steve.
And
Suzanne Hagestrom and everybody. Yeah, that was the Swedish crew.
Yeah, and her husband David. She was my first mentor. In 1985. I remember she told me, here are 10 words that I want to give you ahead of time, that I don't want you to use them unless you have a very good justification why you're using them.
Interesting.
Because she read what I was writing, and she said, I think I want to work with you. I was just scratching the surface, and I guess she liked it.
It's the energy that goes into it. It's
Yes.
the same thing with fashion and the confidence.
Yes.
And, that's what people want. They want the positive energy. We all flock to it naturally, and it's really an amazing part of the creative process.
And just one second, he wants to show me something. I know.
Hey, maestro.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I mixed the 4 gallons.
No. Only one, the other one. No, not this. Not this. The one outside. Show me this.
This the ultra sped.
Yeah, put this in the 5 gallon. Only 1 gallon put.
Only one is best 2.
Yeah, no. Leave this out. This don't touch.
Okay.
You have these 2 gallons. Put one in the 5 gallon
Yeah.
and start using it. And then if you need more, you open the second one.
Okay, no.
This one.
No, nothing.
But don't use the one in the box.
Okay. This.
Yes, the select, don't touch.
Okay.
Okay, I'll see you later.
Okay, maestro.
Don't you love it that you can...
It is. Well, it's nice to see the life still going. That's the.
But because we have only 10 minutes, whether you believe it or not, we did 50 minutes already. So I felt like, if we want to conclude without concluding at all, obviously.
Let's leave it open.
But this is semi-conclusion is always leading to limited declarations of some kind of a personal summary of ours. That I always used to say, doesn't matter what it is. Let's say I have an encounter of this nature or that nature with this person or that person, with this thing or that thing. I always say to myself, remember, Haim, when this is over, and that which happened before is over, and that which is going to be like in an hour is over. At some point, you're guaranteed to find yourself in a place that you know where it is, what it's all about, and you already know the secrets. You earned enough. You dealt with currency from different kinds and languages of different kind, and you're not like a master, but you have knowledge enough to be greeted respectfully in different and no one can take that away from you, nor should no one should express any desire to take it from you. And all this is to say is because at the end of the day, after that, and after what I think is at the end of the day, is all about what am I doing in order to be able to give to you, knowingly, unknowingly, regardless. Regardless.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So again, so you have to get over the idea that you're actually being quite a bit cliche in order to reach that. So it takes some doing to get over that and accept that as a viable tool. That which is cliche.
Yeah.
Bring it into the equation and let them utilize the vehicle more fluently. Help it. Give it a different kind of gasoline, something. So I'm at the edge now. I'm feeling more and more comfortable with being cliche, only because I know that I really want you to understand me more, and say, "Oh, so you want to give me $100?" I'm just saying, yes, that's you got it exactly. God, thank you.
Exchange accepted.
So, so your reservations
Oh, in terms of that.
in terms of reservations. Don't
So-
worry about the reservations.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of a nice way to word this.
Don't try to be
It
nice.
does, well, at the end of the day, you definitely you want to save the best, and you want to be able to help the world go further. You got to be able to maintain some point of balance, within your life, so you can get back to it without over trying to find a nice way to say, without scaring off the natural creative energy you still have to preserve. But what do and what you learn and everything. There's so much to address in that question. Really, that was a very deep question.
Yeah, but the thing is also about the not only the meaning that it packs within it. It's the meaning that we add by concluding it day after day. So we have the contribution. I think people like us realize that we benefit the world, that we contribute to the world, and if you have kids, I know that they will be like, if I have any arguments with people and all this, I said, listen, I already donated 5 brilliant minds to this country. You know what I mean? It's like with all my heart, completely happy and complete in how I feel. And so you see the strength of that, which you can add by way of creating art, and art can be also having kids, if not the only way to
Absolutely
consider it as such.
Really the children, the whole practice of having a child, I feel, once you have the kid, you are now working on something that is greater than yourself, because it is going forward, and you have, to be, my idea of being a good parent is at least, making sure that you have provided the environment for your child to become better than yourself. And so, and even just trying that, even if you fail, the rest of the world will pick up the ball, and the energy will go forward, and the child will probably become amazing regardless, even if it's, in good or bad ways, to kind of go a little chaotic neutral in that aspect. But
Yeah, and also you learn that not everything is lovey-dovey, and not everything is.
yeah, and how do you teach that to your children without jarring them too much, because you work so hard to create a nurturing environment, but the world is going to find ways to shake this up. So how do you politely include data so that your child is as wise as they can be without taking as much of that bruising as you were saying before? That's a delicate balance, which can only be you could only really overcome that through love and really just casual honesty. Just be real. Don't be the obstacle. Be honest, and treat them as they were. Treat everyone the way you like to be treated, and maintain that, and then lead by example. And if they need guidance.
And that's exactly the encounter that I had with people over the weekend. I said, the more questions you ask, the less answers I will have available for you. But you want to say to someone you love, or to your son, for example, your siblings, whatever, you want to tell them, as hard as it is to teach you without teaching you, I can tell you that that which you observe, and I can speak like that to my kids, by the way, that which you observed is already indicating to you, if you were to decide to say, yes, I think it appeals to me, and I think it agrees with me, and I think that this is exactly how it's going to work if I decide to embark. So that means, so they see the possibility not of slaving, like saying, like Dr. John Sarno speaking of Freud like this, you sit and so for 20 years and you're getting really exactly almost nowhere, while you could have all become aware early on that actually being on the sofa is all for relaxation and just chill and just speak and talk, and someone listening or not, it doesn't matter. But the act of the sofa, just the liberty of that moment, the luxury of being able to sit at someone's sofa. And then never to be engaged in realizing that you're getting nowhere, you're coming from nowhere, you're going to nowhere. You're just relaxing for a little while. and you're making it a habit, whatever. So with him, I said, that which you experience now that you know that works for you, it really does work. So once I said, don't use that blue. Once. 5 kids I have. Once to one of them. Once. No, you should use more of that blue. I did that. Caught myself in the act. It's not like I decided I would never do that again. I was deciding I would never do that again without actually telling myself, writing it down, or memorizing it.
Instant reprogram.
Yeah, it's like
Done,
this is
algorithm
not going to...
adjusted.
If I buy you an easel to put canvas on, and the first thing you decide to do is paint the easel, I should be happy. But as a father, you'll be surprised.
Yeah. No,
Parents freak out. Why are you painting the easel? Okay.
Yeah. Instantly, soccer
This is
mom.
where we are.
Yeah.
This is where the world is.
Yeah.
You know, when I left the house, there was a toy here that is now missing. And I can't help myself but blaming you, because you have the key to my house. You opened that door and you came and you stole that toy, something like that. And then you start...
Yeah, you're again trying to hold on to things when you have to just let it go with the flow.
You have to keep on finding a way to lose yourself. You have to, because then otherwise you have to pinpoint and relate to the real issues that are very, very painful, extremely painful, more than you're willing to engage in or deal with, and so much more. But let me just mention that we're sitting here on Monday afternoon, July 17th, year 2023, here with the Hello Show, and my guest is Carl Dahl, Renee Dahl's son, one of the artists that is actually on display here with the group outro at LTV for the month of July. So we are going to be here tomorrow as much as we were here yesterday, and as much as we're here this afternoon, as I said, Monday afternoon, July 17th, year 2023, and keep up the good spirits. And again, thank you so much for showing up.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
It was a pleasure, and it's just one out of many.
Definitely. I look
More
forward
to
to
come.
another jam session in the future.
Yes, by all means.
Thank you.
Thank you.